Guitar Solo Countdown.
Hey everybody, welcome to Jimmy Wolf's Guitar Solo Countdown. This is episode 22. And in the co-pilot chair, I got my good buddy Jeff. And we're going to discuss the year 1987. And we're both going to give our favorite albums of 1987, but also the greatest album of 1987, which might be a little bit more objective, but all right, yeah, so that's a little introduction there. So I'm just going to give a brief list that I made up of all the records that I know of from 87. I kind of think of it as like a beautiful big city that's built on a volcano. And the city is vibrant and it's working. It's got a great like economy, but the volcano is like kind of starting to shake, and that's the vibe I get from 87. I feel like the mainstream is on fire. There's huge records out, but there's all these underground forms of music that are trying to get up. And within a few years, it succeeds. I think like hip hop becomes huge, alternative music becomes the mainstream. It kind of flips around, and rock goes back underground for a while.
If I may say, James, 87 is the year that you could probably attribute that to the new school of hip hop pretty much starting. 87 would be the year. So
there you go.
You're very much right in your assumption.
Okay. And Jeff, it'll probably be your job to list all the hip hop records that came out this year, because I don't really know much of them. Not really a hip hop guy, but I want to become more of a classic hip hop guy.
I'm up for the task, James.
Okay, perfect.
Jimmy.
All right, Jimmy. Okay, so obviously in the rock category, probably at the top, just as far as popularity, this is, I think, the biggest record of 87. Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction.
God bless.
Yep. Big record, classic record. Got obviously the great Def Leppard with Hysteria, their biggest album.
Blessed be.
We got White Snake, their biggest album. We have the biggest comeback in rock and roll history. You know who this is?
Would that be Aerosmith?
Yes, Aerosmith. They had a little taste with the Walk This Way with Run DMC, but this is their first big record.
I would say, I believe Walk This Way with Run DMC was 86 on the Raising Hell album, if I'm not mistaken.
There you go. Amazing. Okay, I love this album, but fans hate it. Kiss, Crazy Nights. We got The Cult. That's one of your favorites. Electric.
That would be Electric, correct?
Electric, yep. We got Motley Crue, Girls.
Mm-hmm.
On the Kiss theme, Ace Frehley has his first solo album of the 80s, I think, called Frehley's Comet. We got Yes's follow-up to their giant 1980s album, 9125. We got the Rush pop record, Hold Your Fire. It's kind of like Rush's mature album. Jeff hates Rush.
I do.
Yep. We got
unabashedly so, I might add.
Okay.
Not a big Kiss fan either.
No, fair enough. We got Joe Satriani, Surfing with the Alien, one of the most important instrumental guitar records. Okay, so that's in the rock category. I have the pop category. So I think the only other album that would compete with Guns N' Roses as far as sales would be Michael Jackson's Bad. That was a huge record as well. We got George Michael, Faith record. We got the women here, Whitney Houston, her second record. We got Tiffany with Debbie Gibson. Amazing pop record, Kick by INXS.
Simply fantastic. And I just have to point out, my God, did Debbie Gibson ever turn out to be a beautiful, stunningly beautiful woman?
Oh yeah.
Debbie, if you're out there.
All right, give Jeff a call. Fair enough.
Jeff Dunbrack. You can look me up.
All right, Bruce Springsteen's follow-up to his massive Born in the USA, Tunnel of Love. Okay, a very critically acclaimed Prince album called Sign of the Times.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, we got Fleetwood Mac, Tango in the
Tango in the Night.
Yep. So that's what I got for pop. Now, as far as metal is concerned,
James, doth mine ears deceive me, or did you forget the Joshua Tree?
oh, it's coming. It's coming.
Oh, okay, excuse me. I don't mean to jump the gun.
All right, no. I'll jump to alternative. So we got alternative U2, obviously Joshua Tree. The Cure, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me. I wonder if they knew about Girls, Girls, Girls. I don't know if they kind of have a similar theme there. Depeche Mode, Music for the Masses.
Yes.
Yep. One of my favorite Chili Peppers records, the Uplift Mofo Party Plan. Last record with Hillel Slovak before he had an unfortunate end. The Smiths, Strange Ways, Here We Come. Okay, also Faith No More's first record came out, Introduce Yourself. Kind of a wild sort of eclectic heavy metal rock alternative band. Okay, so for metal, I usually talk about the big four just because they're very guitar oriented. Slayer, Metallica, Megadeth, and Anthrax are kind of the big four of thrash. Pretty quiet year for them. I think the only band that released a record was Anthrax in this year, Among the Living, which was one of their acclaimed records. Metallica had an EP, so that doesn't really count. And we also had some early death metal records, some debuts from death metal. Not a huge death metal fan, but you know, this could
Nor am I.
Like the Cookie Monster vocals, not really a huge fan. So we got a band called Death, one of the few death metal bands that I really like. They had their first album called Scream Bloody Gore, and Napalm Death's first record, Scum. I know that probably won't be on your list, Jeff, but that's okay.
No, but I mean, I'm open for anything you recommend, Jimmy.
All right, and we got Roger Waters, Radio Chaos, Roger Waters solo record, and Marilyn. Don't really know much about these guys, but Clutching at Straws, it's pretty beloved progressive rock band of the '80s. So yeah, that's all I got for my list of what happened in '87. I don't know, Jeff, do you want to add anything?
No, Jimmy, you got everything I can think of.
Any hip hop albums?
I can't think. You named everything that I could think of. When you brought up this topic, I made a list in my head of things, and you have mentioned every single thing I can think of. So,
was the first Public Enemy album in this year?
The first Public Enemy was 1987. However, I personally don't think it's that great.
Okay.
It was the. So the first Public Enemy, they don't think it's that great either. There was an issue with, it was supposed to come out at the end of '86, but there was some, like the label delayed it a little bit, and it came out in '87, and they feel like they kind of missed the mark a little bit.
Okay.
Had it come out in '86, it probably would have been a little more impactful. Okay. But Public Enemy's '88 album, It Takes a Nation of Millions, was the real masterpiece, and so their first album doesn't really do it for me. But in terms of hip hop, though, you did have Paid in Full, Eric B. and Rakim.
Okay.
Very influential, although again, their second album's better, 1988 as well. But the first one certainly is a classic for sure. It's got definitely some of their biggest tunes ever, and definitely those songs still rock today. Eric B. is President, the song Paid in Full, I Ain't No Joke, so that's definitely a good place to start. I think you had the first Boogie Down Productions, Criminal Minded, which I don't think is aged very well, but it's definitely considered a landmark classic, maybe even a classic of all classics. It's very well loved and respected. What else do you have in that era?
There's also bands that are missing just because they didn't release a record this year. Like Van Halen's missing. AC/DC's missing. You know, big bands that are still doing really well in this era, but just, you know, they had to be left out just because
They were on tour those years.
They were, yeah.
They were touring their previous albums.
Yep.
But actually, it's funny, when you brought that up about 87, I started to think, I think 87 might have been maybe there may be one year in the 90s that would have been better, but I mean, I can't think of a better year in the 80s for music in terms of how many great albums came out that year. Like, it's staggering.
Yeah.
My personal favorite from 87 was the Joshua Tree, just because I've got so many good memories of that album. I mean, it was ubiquitous on the radio. It was, those songs were everywhere, and those are still some of the most favorite U2 songs in terms of their fan base. Streets Have No Name, Still Found What I'm Looking For, With or Without You. U2 never ever play a concert without playing Bullet the Blue Sky. One of my personal, in my top 3 U2 songs ever, Running to Stand Still. And just the fact that album is, I mean, it's kind of like a roller coaster ride where there's all types of different songs. It's not just, all rockers or all ballads. The tempos are different. Like, In God's Country's a little bit more upbeat. Bullet the Blue Sky is very kind of like molasses, slow, very heavy percussion. All of the band members are well represented on there. And even the element of production goes a step further than Unforgettable Fire. Some more keyboards and layering. You can tell that they really, really worked hard on this album. It truly is a masterpiece. And there's very few albums that are, if you're gonna put me on the spot, I can't think of many albums that are absolutely perfect, where there's no duds. And 87 was a year that you had 3, Appetite, Hysteria, and Joshua Tree are flawless albums. There's no duds, there's nothing, there's no skippable moments, there's no fast forwards. All 3 albums are entities unto themselves. They are works of art to listen to from beginning to end. And just Joshua Tree, for me personally, is it's special. It's always going to be special. I'm always going to love it. I will never ever get tired of that album. I bought it so many times, over and over and over, with $300 vinyl box sets, and every anniversary, the 20th anniversary, 30th anniversary. I've got every 12-inch single from that album. Like, it truly is special to me. I'm always going to love it, and that's why it's my personal favorite from 87.
Nice. Okay, Jeff, what is the best album of 1987?
Also, the Joshua Tree.
Boom. Right. There you go.
Although we do have to give a mad shout out to Hysteria by Def Leppard. Production wise, there is nothing else like it. It was a really hard call for me to say what the best one was, because I feel like all 3 of those albums they're about as good as albums ever get in their own way. I went with the Joshua Tree because, like you said, I think there's an honesty on it that just comes across. The band they were still humble young men, earnest. I don't think whereas on Octane Baby, they were kind of having fun with, celebrity and fame, and I think on the Joshua Tree, they were. There's no doubt they were big rock stars, but they were still they weren't living lavish lifestyles, and it just, there's an honesty there that I think, like you said, that a lot of artists are still trying to recapture in their own works. still, that album has a presence that's been felt through pop music from that point forward. And I know that Appetite certainly, it was the pinnacle of that genre. Everybody wanted to be Slash from that point onwards. Everyone was looking for that gutter street mentality, street sound. Coincidentally, in 1998, I had a babysitter that summer by the name of Kim Johnson. Kim, if you're listening, I've always been madly in love with you from the age of 10 years old till present day. But Hysteria by Def Leppard was her favorite album. Pour Some Sugar on Me was her favorite song. And she was 14, I was 10, and she was all woman. Let me tell you. I have a mental image of her in my mind still right now. She had bleached blonde rocker hair, very shapely. And she dressed rocker, kind of like ripped t-shirts, short cut off jean shorts. She smoked cigarettes, like she was just a rocker chick. And, God bless you, Kim Johnson. Jeff Dunbreck, find me. But yeah, it's the Joshua Tree still is the best album. The production is, the production on all three of those albums I think is great. But on the Joshua Tree, it's just there's something about that album that I think their bands still to this day are trying to. I think some people could say U2 fans could say, I'm an Achtung Baby guy, or I'm a Joshua Tree guy, but certainly nobody on earth would say that the Joshua Tree is a bad album at all. I think you'd be hard pressed to find any person on earth that doesn't like one song on the Joshua Tree. It's just been such a part of our, of culture as a whole. I mean, Christ, they play it in elevators and in grocery stores and in shopping malls, and it's Joshua Tree, best album of 1987.
All right, love it.
And yours, sir?
I'll go by pretty quick here. So my favorite, you mentioned it, Def Leppard. You gave me this actually. This is a incredible heavyweight vinyl, amazing. I agree. This is just it's Def Leppard's biggest record. It was huge. It was their third with Mutt Lange, so the band was really comfortable with the producer. It divides fans though, because it's a lot poppier and I would say more sound designy, experimental. That's the word. Maybe just modern sound designer. Gone is the heavy, 5-piece rock band. It's more like this crazy rock machine now. Like it sounds like there's computers and really wild effects and stuff that are being used on this album. So I think that angered older fans, but for me, it's the perfect marriage of everything. It's like a perfect fusion of pop music, rock music, metal music, electronic music. It's kind of this crazy amalgamation of everything, and it's only Def Leppard. Like this is the only band that sounds like this. Like I can't think of any other band that sounds like Def Leppard. It's like you hear that huge, Simmons kind of style drum sound, instantly you think Def Leppard, right? You hear, Joe Elliott's voice, you think it's so distinctive, and I love the other two records, High and Dry and Pyromania as well, but this one, I came in for this record. It was the first one I really got into, so I've got an emotional resonance with this album more so than the other two. But I just think it's just such a distinct, unique masterpiece. Like it is like the ultimate record that they could have done. Like they've never done better than this, in my opinion. It's like they scaled the mountain and they couldn't get any higher. But that's okay. We always have this one, and I'm so glad they're making music. So yeah, that's definitely my favorite. And I think the best, I agree with you, I think the best album of 1987 would either be Appetite or Joshua Tree. And I'm going to go with Joshua Tree because I think it's a deeper record. I think there's more artistic depth to it. There's more stylistic diversity to it. I think the influence of the Joshua Tree is way further reaching than Appetite for Destruction. I think Appetite was really influential for a good 5 or 6 years, where every band wanted to sound like Guns N' Roses. But now I think Guns N' Roses is like it's like Def Leppard. Like Appetite for Destruction is its own thing now. But I mean, U2's influence on every other band that came after them, I mean, it's everywhere. It's still going on, right? You turn on, you know, Spotify, like any new indie band, it's gonna sound like U2, right? It's gonna have that, you know, that sort of, that bass line that kind of just changes in that, you know, kind of high, like ostinato synth or guitar line with a whole bunch of weird effects and reverb. I mean, that's what almost every band is still doing, right? So that's crazy that, you know, U2 was able to do that. And I think the one commonality I can sense with all these records, with Appetite, with Def Leppard, and with U2, they had great producers, right? And the producer brought his expertise in music to the album as well. You know, like Brian Eno and Daniel Lanois absolutely influenced the Joshua Tree. You know, with a lot of the ambient stuff, you could tell that was from Eno, and just the really interesting production calls. It had to have been Eno, right? Or it would have to have been Lanois, right? So, and I mean, obviously, this is kind of a Mutt Lange solo record, and it's, you know, and he used Def Leppard for his solo ambitions, right? So yeah, I mean, it's and Mike Klink, I think, was Appetite for Destruction, and he's a fantastic producer as well. Maybe he was a bit more laid back and he just let the band do what they did best, which is also a really important production skill, is to what's that saying that like, what's his name had, reduction as opposed to
yeah, what's his face,
Rick Rubin
with the Cult.
Yeah
He was a reducer, not producer.
Exactly. So, you know, standing back or telling the band to play less could even be better. Definitely not.
I think there's a case to be made too for the fact that that's GNR's first album, and U2 and Def Leppard are well on their way at this point. So when Def Leppard went in to record Hysteria, and same with U2, they may have had some stuff like worked out, but it was, we go in and we work on these songs. We're gonna make these songs right. You know, probably a little bit of improvisation here and there, and it was meticulously crafted in order to make the final product. Whereas GNR Appetite, they were so tight from playing nonstop that those songs were so perfectly rehearsed. Like, those boys knew those parts, and they were so tight together. They lived and I think they slept in their recording space. So they lived and breathed rock and roll, and all they wanted was to record that album. And so when it was time to record, it was almost effortless for them. They were so polished and well rehearsed. I don't think there was, you know, doing 80 takes of a guitar solo. I think Slash went in and nailed it all the time. And, you know, probably Axl's vocals, they required a little, you know, he can't smash it out of the park, you know, on take one, but I don't think it took 50 takes for him to nail each one of those vocals either. I think that band was so tight, and so Mike Klink's job was just like, all right, boys, do your thing. It sounds excellent. Next track. And I think Appetite took a lot less to record than Hysteria and the Joshua Tree. And it's just because of the point in their career where they were at that time. Whereas, you know, obviously the length of time it took to do, you know, Use Your Illusion was legendary and incredibly expensive over many, many it was recorded over a 2-year period, and tons and tons of money spent on it, obviously in between touring and all that. But whereas specifically for Joshua Tree, I mean, they hold up. I think they rented some type of place where they could set up all the gear, and they all lived together and recorded together. But they banged that thing out in 6 months and worked on it. And it was a 6-month thing. Hysteria, we all know, took much longer, and there was breaks, and Mutt left, and then Mutt came back, and Rick Allan needed to learn how to play drums. So it was much more complicated for Hysteria. It took off and on 4 years. But it's worth noting that just the differences in the careers of those artists at the time, and it really shows how those albums turned out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's kind of legendary. I'd say the 2 albums that were just so much like drama and just so much effort that took to make is Hysteria, and also the Whitesnake record, the self-titled Whitesnake album. There's a lot of drama behind that album too.
The band weren't getting along.
Well, for Whitesnake, basically it was David Coverdale and John Sykes basically did the whole record, and then John Sykes was fired right when the album was done, pretty much. And
Dirty.
A whole new band came in. Yeah. So it was it was wild. But I mean, I'm sure John Sykes still got paid because he wrote everything. But yeah, it's like like Whitesnake is not Whitesnake after that record, right? It's a whole different band. Anyways, that could be a whole episode on it.
We digress.
Yeah. Okay, Jeff, I'm running out of time on the Zoom thing, but yeah, I think that's good enough, man. That's a good episode there.
Wonderful, Jimmy. Always a pleasure. I eagerly anticipate next week's conversation, and I'll send you a message in the next few days.
All right, perfect, buddy.
Take care, buddy.
Okay, see you, Jeff.
Jimmy Wolf's Guitar Solo Countdown.